to the Stampscaping 101 Stamp-Along. We're going to do a scene that's a little bit different, or has a different twist than what I normally do. I'm going to stamp one of these sky images in a very dark color to contrast against the embossed foreground imagery that I'm going to stamp in black. Okay, so that being said, the one thing that I usually do with my sky images, if it's like stars like this, okay, and they're to be, obviously a night sky because it's, images like this, I would normally stamp these like in a 75% in terms of darkness, 70% dark blue, green, purple, whatever color scheme I'm working with, to create contrast against, like, say, some darker trees that I'd stamp over the top of them, okay? But with this embossing type of ability here, for the foreground images stand out now, we don't need that much contrast anymore, okay? Because embossed imagery is, it's shiny and erased, okay? It catches the light, so we're able to differentiate a dark foreground image from a really dark background image much, more easily now because of that reflective aspect of a shiny, embossed image, okay? So that being said, I'm going with a really dark blue here. I'm kind of curious to know if I can use black for this imagery, stamp black on black, and for the, foreground imagery to show up just fine. I don't know. Quarter page, satin coated card, okay? So it's a slightly coated card, not like glossy or anything like that. I mean, just to look at this with your naked eye, that looks like just a piece of matte cardstock. I'm doing that specifically so that you can follow along with this and not say, hey, it didn't work because I didn't have that same paper issue or something like that, okay? All right, so just stamping this nebula star. Could be any one of these images here, or just any type of night image that you have, as long as it's going to be, adequately dark, all right? Now, I'm going like that with this one, but I have all this area to fill in. Now, I think a cloud would look great around this, but I'm not going to do that on this one because I want this background to be really quite dark, okay? For this, the point of this experiment, can we have imagery show up that's, really low in contrast against the foreground imagery set against it, okay? All right, now I did this one at an angle. You could do it straight, across. I would suggest an angle with your nighttime sky like this, especially if it's just going to be a whole area filled in with sky, dark sky, okay? And that's just to get rid of this kind of little blocky kind of brickwork type of texture. Okay, now here's the inclination. This is the Milky Way right here, okay? And I stamped this nebula star. This is not going to be stamped like right here, like a brick. Don't think about like you're stacking bricks or Legos or something like that, snapping them into place. This is kind of edge to edge, right? Can you see that? But I'm going to take this, and it's going to get skewed like this and go into that image quite a bit, okay? So we're just looking to fill in. Now, I could blot off the images before I stamp them out, okay? With this, it's not really going to be needed. You could, but I'm not going to bother here, okay? So, going like this, going in here, okay? So this, I'm kind of covering everything up except that star and that nebula formation right there. So I'll take this and I'll go in like here. But I don't want to go edge to edge. I want to skew it a little bit, okay? And that blends things in more. And it's just the foundation blend. We're going to be doing some additional ink blending over this after this, which is going to be very quick, and it'll take care of anything that didn't really blend in very well afterwards, okay? See that, how that's going? Now, like I said, the clad cumulus would be a really great one. It would offset against the nebula, but this is an experiment of dark against dark. And this vid's going out to Paul out there, who has just picked up this set, probably based on some of those recent scenes that I did using it. But I said, hey, I was telling him I'll do a couple videos, or stamp-along style of videos too. You can stamp along with any of my videos, but this one, I don't know, I kind of changed my pacing a little bit, and I try to approach it as if you're kind of sitting here right with me, stamping along, okay? All right, so let's go with some additional tone in here. That, by the way, it's a really deep navy blue, really quite dark, okay? This one's called Prussian Blue. Go with any kind of dye-based navy blue, and that should be fine. I don't know, maybe you can go with a different type too. As long as the ink that you're going to be using to stamp your images over the top of it will stick to it, okay? Or stamp over it. Could be a StazOn or something like that, so you can stamp that out in oxides or something like that. But okay, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be taking an ink of the same type. It doesn't have to be the same brand or anything like that, okay? And we're going to blend in some additional tone into this to make it look even more dimensional, multi-valued, in terms of a lighter blue and the darker blue, contrasting against it. Let's go with a distress ink. Let's go with Mermaid Lagoon, okay? This is just real similar to like your Bahama Blue, your light blue from Marvy. Okay, so anything like that. A medium blue, okay, would be fine. If you end up using like a turquoise, then you'll turn this into more of a greenish tinged scene. I'm using a couple drops of my reinker fluid, okay? You can just dab into a pad, tap, tap, blend, okay? That'll take a little bit longer and you won't be using as much ink, okay? This just makes it so much faster for me, okay? So let's see how many seconds this takes. I think about 30 seconds or something like that. All right, I really filled that in, okay? But I want to. I would normally retain some of the lights of the stars in here, okay? But I'm doing this to make a point, okay? Or not make a point, but to test my experiment, okay? If we can get some dark imagery to stand out against such a dark foundational background. Okay, so that was that kind of. It's like a jewel tone medium blue. Okay, now this is going back to that same Prussian blue that I've stamped the imagery out in. Okay, so let's go in here like so. And I'm going around on the perimeter. I'm not going over the whole thing, okay? See that there? Now this is going a lot faster for me, if since I did that reinker. But if you're still working on the first color, trying to get a really good saturation with it, then just pause the video and catch up with me here, and you'll be all set to go. Okay, now this is really quite moist, all right? Now, let's see. Is it dark enough, though? Yeah, it's pretty dark. Let's just leave it at that. Okay, so let's go in. And, okay, I'm going to be embossing a quote stamp in white ink over the top of this, okay? So this card right here is pretty moist right now, so we're going to have to heat set this and get the moisture out of it so that the white embossing powder doesn't stick, all over this card right here, okay, that I'm going to be using for the quote. Applied quite a bit of ink to this because when you use the reinker fluid, a lot of that ink gets drawn into the pulp of the paper. Now, again, I'm going with kind of more of a matte paper. It's that satin coat, dull coat, so it does have a little bit of sheen to it, but and coating. But a lot of that ink does soak into the pulp of the paper. So that being said, let's get started here. On a quote stamp, this one is when it is darkest, we see the stars, all right? And I'm going to do this in a Hero Arts unicorn white, okay? My Brilliance ink dries pretty fast, so just this plain, regular oil-based pigment ink should do the trick here. Let's see, which way's up and which way's down? I think I like this way. I know, it's like an abstract, but if you kind of flip your cards around, one way will probably reveal itself in terms of not what is best, but at least what your preference is. So, just flip it around and kind of trust your instincts in terms of your gut feeling, It's probably telling you what you prefer. They always say go with your first instinct or kind of whatever, first answer and things. All right, so that is a very translucent impression, but that's why we're embossing here, okay? So hopefully, I'm nice and dry around there. We're going to be doing some detailed white embossing powder on this, okay? Got a couple chunks there. Right. And right, like that. Okay, now, if you have it, grab your Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White. If you don't have that, then just grab a white paint pen. If you have that, okay. If you don't have that, whatever you have, white gel pen or anything. If you don't have any of those and you have some crystals, then you can add some crystals later on, okay. All right, so I do have my Dr. Martin's, okay. I'm going to do a video on reconstituting this, because sometimes it can get really, I know it looks really weird when it dries sometimes. Not all of them, but some of them do. It's like this foamy kind of dry, and someone posted a thing on it. They were saying, can this be reconstituted? I don't know, is it water-based or anything? I thought, well, let's do something on that sometime. Okay, so I'm mixing this up with my water. Okay. And we're taking this like so. I mean, I can do this after I emboss that quote stamp, but I might as well just do it right now. Okay, so I just put a little bit into the very tip of that, okay? And I'm getting out the excess because I don't need too much of it. All right, then you spray this. Kind of try not to spray too much around your quote right there. All right. And I'm doing this right now because I'm going to be putting in some foliage over the top of this, okay? And that's going to be done in black, so I don't want to have this splattered on after the foliage is, after the foreground imagery is on there, because it'll look like snow then. And, the quote is already about stars, so we want this to be about stars. See, that gives you that, let's see, let me put a little bit up here. Yeah, okay. You know what? I can splatter around that because it's all uppercase lettering. Plus, that's going to be raised, so it's going to be raised kind of apart from the stars. So see this right here? See all those stars in here? Look at that texturing. How fast the one thing about the Dr. Martin's bleed proof white is even the most minute little splatter paint speck, it's white. Okay. If you're doing like I don't know, like an acrylic or something like that, it would usually look a little bit more translucent. In fact, we can do a couple of these on here just for some size variations. I'm making some larger sizes of dots like this, okay? It might not be as opaque when it dries. It looks pretty opaque right now, but usually it dries to a little bit of a darker look because it becomes a little bit more see-through, or a lot more see-through. This quote stamp right here, when it's darkest, we see the stars. It's like, kind of feel better soon, if we're sending it to someone, or kind of keep your chin up type of thing. Some people don't want to hear that, if they're kind of, not feeling very well. But, I don't know. I think it's kind of a nice quote in there. All right, now let's heat set and emboss that, okay? Because if I lay down my black pigment ink here right now, and then do clear over the top of that. Change my mind. I'm going to clear emboss my foreground imagery. I was worried about some of the embossing powder sticking to some of this, but if it sticks to some of those stamps, who cares, right? And it might be kind of cool. All right, so let's do some leaves in here, okay? I'm still kind of experimenting around with a lot of my new foliage stamps, my new stamp sets. This one is about deciduous foliage. Okay, we have some large leaves like right here. All right, now I'm going to use my VersaFine Clear because that's a nice, super detailed black. For those of you who have it, of course, you know that. And it's going to be a nice, deep, rich black, hopefully, for my clear embossing that we utilize in here, okay? So I'll go with a couple different sizes of foliage, okay? Man, that is so dark, huh? All right. Be careful with these big, solid images like that, because when you stamp them out like that on, your surface right here, make sure that it doesn't like skew a little bit. I just did that on accident a couple days ago. I was like, oh my god. And then you can employ some repair work, but who wants to do that if you don't have to? So when you're stamping out, light, even pressure, firm pressure, but watch that little skew, because this is it's like a little layer of oil right over the top of what you're stamping out, because these are oil-based inks. And of course, oil is slippery, right? All right. I should have made the background a little bit darker just to really test this out, because this really stands out against the background, no problem. Okay. All right. That was fun stuff. Kind of doing the entire perimeter as if we're kind of looking up, you know, kind of a worm's eye view or something like that into the sky. The great expanse, right? Okay, now let's. That almost looks just fine as is, but I think it's going to look even better when it's embossed. That VersaFine clear in itself does create quite a bit of visual distance between the things that you have stamped out in the back, or just whatever the back is. Doesn't have to be something that's stamped. Okay, I go through more paper embossing than normal. You know, because you're sprinkling embossing powder on that, and I know you get a little bit of residual embossing powder on the surface there. All right. Eagles. These ones are really tiny. I made them really small just to get some extra images on the plate. I'm going to go ahead and emboss these. I changed my mind. I think I'm going to go with eagle, just one, or am I? I'm just going to use one, I think. You know, it's like that kind of idea about sending it to someone that's, you know, kind of feeling down or something like that. Didn't get the grade they wanted, whatever, right? That's like academic dark, you know, dark worlds. And let's see. I'm going to go with a couple brighter stars like this. Now that I have that eagle there, he's flying off into, you know, a very beautiful darkened night sky here with, you know, a lot of brighter stars here and there. Okay. Now I'm adding these in here right now because I'm thinking maybe embossing these will, I don't know, add a little bit of dimension to it. Okay, so here comes the clear embossing powder over this. I don't know how this is going to affect, if any, the white embossing powder that I've already laid down, because inevitably some of this is going to get on the white as well that I have not set yet. Okay. My embossing static resist, or not static resist, but resist tool is my you know, flicking finger. All right, so that's what we have there. Preheat. Okay. And what are we at? 25 minutes ish. 24:39. So let's see. It should be, I don't know, like a half an hour card. Not too bad. Yeah, we got a lot of, decent number of techniques in here. All right, there we have it. I didn't go. I'm gonna have to do the background in black. This is just really light. It's when the dye-based inks dried, they got lighter. So I'm not quite working the very little contrast against, the background as I had it intended. But that still looks pretty cool. All right, it's like we're really close to the scene and looking up into the night sky like that. Okay, so that's about 26, it's about 27 minutes. And remember, as I'm teaching these things, I'm kind of blabbing away, talking about concept, and I'm just saying, okay, grab that, and stamp it. But let's see, we'll get this formatted into a card, and we'll be done with another stamp along here. Let's see, I'm looking at the imagery here. I don't know if you can see. Can you see that? Or it's kind of, it looks almost greenish for some reason to me, like in there. It's like I can see the imagery through that. It's slightly transparent, but it's just so dark that you can't really tell too much. I can tell from the naked eye slightly. I can see the texturing through there, but I don't know. It kind of makes it interesting, being able to see through that image now, where you couldn't see it with just the straight black, black with the glare. But when you emboss it, I don't know, it changes that a little bit. Yeah. Okay, let's. All right, we have our card formatted on a piece of matte black. I don't know if it's cardstock or just paper, but I put that little bit of border around it. It's when it's darkest we see the stars, so it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be a kind of an optimistic type of statement, graphic statement here, with the quote right there. But kind of being on this black format like this, it's not, and then you open it up, it's kind of, I don't know if it's, has a little bit of a morbid type of feel to it. I mean, you can stamp something else in here, but I have my white pigment ink here still, and my brush. Let's go ahead and use this. I did this, I don't know, about a week ago or something like that. And let's create a Milky Way in here on the interior of our card. Okay, so let's go like this. Okay, this is the way you open it up. And let's see. You can do it in different directions, but I think that like this. Do I want to do it this way, like this way, or this way? I was going to say this way, but I think it's, I don't know, I think it's like this. Okay, so I'm going to go. I'm trying to get this turned in a direction that's going to be conducive for, I don't know, motion here, okay? So I like to go for like a bit of an S curve, so let's see, like it'll be like this, okay? So let's go like this, and you don't have to do it all in one, swoop here. So you see I'm just kind of going back in, and then going like this. I'm holding it much closer to my paper than I normally do, okay? Just because I want to get a kind of a little bit more of a targeted area, okay? So this is where I'm putting this. Yeah, I'm concentrating so much. I'm applying it in this kind of motion like this, and then we'll get a little bit on the perimeter like this, but let's try to keep it where that, the main swoosh like that is, kind of obvious. I think people will associate that type of thing with the Milky Way. I mean, wouldn't that be kind of nice? It really goes with the quote really well. When it's darkest, we see the stars, and it's kind of a quiet little scene. But then we open it to this grand expanse of a Milky Way. There's, I always loved those nights when you can see a ton of stars. I don't see that as often as I would like to. A lot of times when I used to go hiking and camping out, for us it was like the deserts, the high deserts of, for me in California, and that's where we'd go to see like the, I think was it Leonid meteor showers every year? Was it Leonid or Percy? I can't remember. Okay, so let me add some larger ones in here just for a little bit of variation, okay? Kind of group a couple here and there. Okay. This really helps too, these larger little dots here and there. And then, I mean, this is the type of card here, that you can just take your white pen and say, dear, whoever thinking of you, or thinking about you, love, down here. That'll still stand out. Something like this pen, or whatever you end up writing with. You can use like if you want it to stand out a little bit more, use maybe a metallic silver or something of that sort. That'd be kind of cool. Oh, okay. Now here's the thing I almost forgot to do too. Since this is blue like that, let's put a few more of these on the foreground or on the front here too. Okay. But since that's blue in there, let's hit this with a few blue dots as well. I have these different paint pens right here in different colors. Let's see if there's one that I shook up a little bit more recent. They separated. I was going to say that if it's been a few days, these paints really separate, and you really have to shake it up. You can see. On the Artistro ones, it has a clear barrel, so you can see if you shake the pen up enough, because it's not quite mixed. So let's see. Okay, that's ready to go. All right, so I'm going in with that blue theme right here too. It's just an extra little needle and thread as far as visual continuity between the front of the card and the interior. It could be any type of thing. In this case, it's pattern and color being carried out here from the exterior of the card to the interior. Okay. All right, I'll be careful not to close that until this dries. It dries pretty quick, but we need to be careful about that still. All right, so let's take a look at that. Let's see. I need to decrease the contrast, I think, of my camera right here to give the full kind of indication. I compensate for my camera because I have this white paper down here, but when I just have the card, I need to change it back to less brightness. Okay, so this is what the card really looks like right here in terms of the color scheme. It's darkest, we see the stars, and then when someone opens their card, you have the Milky Way right there. Alright, so anyways, if you stamped along with me, I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, join me at another time. This is a really fun card to do, especially with the embossing. I mean, look at that. Look at that level of visual depth. This is on matte cardstock. If you do it on glossy too, the color depth will be even more kind of profound and whatnot. Okay, but I just wanted to do it in a, just a cardstock that anyone can get anywhere in the world. Okay, there's the quote stamp right there. It's the quote stamp right there too. It's not even glossy, so it kind of stands out against the imagery in there, embossed like that. Okay, so anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the card, and we'll see you on the next video or stamp along.